name is Steve Leach. I'm the owner, and I love to design stuff. Started off as a kid who got taken to the drag races on his 12th birthday by his dad, and I just fell in love with it. I think the biggest allure was, because I'd gone to other races, sprint car races and stuff, but the biggest allure was at the drag races, they let you go in the pits. And you got to be right next to the cars and look at all the stuff and talk to the drivers and talk to the mechanics. And that was it for me. It was just all that mechanical ingenuity. I just loved it. Really loved were the fuel funny cars. And this was in the late 60s. And the fuel funny cars were becoming more popular than the A-gas supercharged. It was easier to go to races and get paid to go to the races. So I decided that nobody was going to let me drive their fuel funny car. I was going to have to build my own. I had developed a lot of parts that I used on my own car that I wouldn't sell to anybody else because I had to race them guys. So that was my advantage, because most of them by then had substantial sponsors. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start selling these parts to them. And about the same time, I got hooked up with Gates Corporation, who makes the blower belts. And that turned out to be a really good deal, because we're their biggest supplier of blower belts now. So that was pretty much it. I quit driving the race car and started focusing on building stuff, which I decided that was, maybe it wasn't what I really liked to do it. But bottom line was I was a lot better at that than I was at a race car driver. My wife had kind of wanted to have kids, and you know, I took a serious look at around LA and decided that wasn't really where I wanted to raise kids. So I started looking, and in the meantime, another real good friend from junior high from that area had bought some property further on down Salmon Mine Road. And we would come up here in the summertime and go camping at his property. And we'd drive by this shop, which was a 5,000 square foot shop, and I noticed it had a 3-phase power drop coming down to it. So, you know, when you're a machine tool junkie, you realize that 3-phase power, even in the city, is hard to come by in a lot of small shops. And so I just drove in here one day and gave the guy a business card and said, I'd really, you know, if you ever decide to sell this place, let me know. Just kind of on a whim, because my friends were teasing me about, oh, you ought to move your shop up here. And about 2 years later, the guy called up and said, hey, I want to sell this place.
Paco, I've been working with RCD for about 16 years now. I'm the sales manager, and I'm going to go ahead and take you guys on a tour through the shop. We're going to start right here, and where it all begins with raw material. Raw material comes off the trucks, gets put on the racks, and Danny over here cuts it up, puts it into boxes, and then I'll take you to the machines where these boxes actually end up.
So I'm going to turn this blank of aluminum into this part right here, and I'm going to show you how we do that. All right.
Why are you doing that, Joey? How'd you get into this business?
Actually, I started when I was 16 years old. My parents knew the manager of the company, and I started out like that. I started out just deburring parts and polishing and tumbling and stuff like that. I started at the bottom and worked my way up. I really like it. Yeah, I've actually grown up here my whole life, and it's great. I really like it. I come to work every day. I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm in my backyard pretty much. It's really nice.
over here in the starter department. This is the signature part of RCD. This is something Steve Leach, this is an original product that he came up with when he was drag racing. They needed a way to start the funny cars or the dragsters, and they used to push start them. Well, they needed a way to start them, and Steve came up with it. So
Is that it right here on
this
the
is
desk?
it right here.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Yep. This is what we call a blower starter. And why we call it a blower starter is it mounts on the blower, and I can kind of give you an idea of what it does. I'll put it here on the dyno. This is something we do. We make them, we dyno them, or we'll repair them, and then we'll dyno them also to make sure they're working and running right. Yeah, this is where you engage it here.
All right.
And basically, we'll go ahead and fire it up. This is basically the load of a funny car or dragster motor we put on it.
So yeah, I really wish I knew a secret formula that did that. I think you have to kind of burn through a little quantity, and eventually you get better at better. And it's not that there weren't a lot of capable people here, but what you find is that some people are good at making stuff with their hands. Some people are good at making stuff with their hands and really appreciate a nice part when they get done with it. And they can you just know when you hold it in your hand that the guy was really passionate about making it. And other guys are really good at making stuff but don't really care about how good it is. So it's kind of separating those out. And sometimes you just have to tell a guy, hey, you're not a bad person, but this is not the right job for you. You need to go down the road and find out, especially when they're younger, you need to find out what you're really good at and go do that, because you could make a living at this all your life, but you're never going to be happy doing it. I'd like to invite you to RCD to see quality parts being built and quality people that build them and quality people that can give you the service. And thanks very much for taking our tour.